Hello, everyone. I'm John Rodriguez, and welcome to Hidden History Interviews. Today, I'm honored to be having a conversation with Tim Holbert, president of the American Veterans Center, a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving America's heroic memory by spotlighting heroes of American military history and beyond. How are you doing today, Mr. Holbert?
I'm great. How are you, John?
Good, good. Glad to have you on, and I'm looking forward to hearing everything about the American Veterans Center. I personally have used them as a resource many times for the work that I do, and it's an honor to have you on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Alrighty, so we have here. If you could just give us a little background about the American Veterans Center and what it's
Sure.
all about.
Yeah, we've been around now for more than 30 years, dedicated to preserving the stories and the legacy of our military from across the generations. Really started back about 30 years ago during the 50th anniversary of World War II. Hard to believe we're in the 80th anniversary of the war right now. But back in the early 90s was the beginning of that real renaissance of interest in World War II, coinciding with that. And Jim Roberts, who founded the organization, went out and produced a very popular radio series called World War II Chronicles on looking back on World War II, that week in history, using old newsreel footage and all of that stuff. And aired on some 500-600 stations across the country, really popular and really grew over its 5-year run, coinciding with that week in the war. So coming out, they said, there's something really special here, real interest in that history of World War II. And from there, he launched it as a full organization dedicated to that, preserving that history. Still continued on doing radio programming and documentaries and speaker programs and events and bringing World War II veterans together with high school students. That became college students. That became over the years now beyond World War II, bringing in Generation Sense, and really kind of grew from there. And all throughout that, again, continued to record these stories. Well, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, we started not just recording for radio and audio, but we started recording for video as well, just again to preserve for history's sake. You never knew what could happen with that. Well, along came YouTube, and we noticed people actually really cared and wanted to watch these stories, and so that really kind of made elevated the mission and opened up new opportunities to go out and obsessively capture this history and share it with people, and it's really grown into something special that we're really proud of.
That's great. It's honestly great to hear, and it's awesome that there are organizations like the American Veterans Center and others that are trying to preserve these stories because, as you know, these veterans, as time goes on, we're losing these veterans, unfortunately, and when we lose these veterans, we lose not only their story and their history that needs to be heard and should be heard because I believe it's vital for our society.
Absolutely. Well, I like to call it aspirational history. It's these stories of these people that we can all, look up to, aspire to be like, want to carry on this tradition of really who we are at our best. Preserving that and having it, and where young people can watch it and connect with it. I mean, we all connect obviously through the internet now. Our goal is to use the internet for good by capturing these stories that make us, find what we have in common and aspire to be like, and then get it out there for people to watch. And it's great to see people do watch, and that's really fulfilling.
Yeah, definitely. I've used, like I said earlier, a lot of the resources from the American Veterans Center, interviews, from my own work, my own historical work, and it's very valuable. And that's why I was honored and happy to be able to sit down with you today and talk because I'm sure there are a lot of people who don't know what the American Veterans Center does and their mission and how important it really is, simply because of the passage of time. And we literally, it's like we don't have, the clock is ticking, literally. Mm-hmm. And that's why the work that you guys do is so important for preserving this history, this oral history.
Absolutely. Every moment matters now, particularly with our World War II, Korea, Vietnam veterans. When I first started, I've been doing this for 21 years now. And when I started, there were 4 million of 16 million American World War II veterans left. Now there's, about 100,000 that are still left. But that's 100,000, and that's something we can still do to preserve those stories so people can hear them going forward. And they do. We've stories that we've recorded 10, 12 years ago that honestly, back then you didn't know exactly what to do with them, but you had them, you knew it was valuable, would sit on the shelf and you can share them now and people hear them now. So when you have it, it can speak for long after the veterans are gone. And so it really, the urgency to record it is truly there to move as quickly as we can.
Yeah, definitely. It's an urgent matter, and it's also, like you said, the numbers have gone down, in what, 20 years or so. But there are still veterans out there, and that's why it is important. And thankfully now with with all the negativity that comes with technology, the one positive that I love to focus on is the fact that we can share these stories through the internet, through video and audio and pictures, and we can share this with people around the world, which is something that I really like to focus on when it comes to technology, the one positive thing.
Absolutely. That's the thing. We think of all the negatives with social media and how it can divide us, but it can also find ways to bring people together and aspire to that, the better angels in our nature and find that place in our brain and psyche where, hey, you know what, we are. In the end, we're all people. We're all the same. Obviously, if we're in America, we're all Americans. These are the people and the stories that we can all look to say, hey, let's find common ground. And so that's really such an important piece of these stories. And one reason why I think so many of us are drawn to military history, because it is a place where you've seen people from all backgrounds, all places in America, all coming together to, for common cause, and where stepping up and serving is something that they can all find in common, and so it's a piece of history that we really like bringing to people, and I think again it resonates. We see people watch it, and it does resonate. So I think it's something we can all all agree on.
Yeah, definitely. It's important. I feel like I'm stressing because I'm a historian, but it really is an important thing. Other than the oral histories that the American Veterans Center is collecting, I know you guys also have 2 annual events: the National Memorial Day Parade and the American Valor, A Salute to Our Heroes. I'd love to hear more about that, and I'm sure my listeners and watchers would love to hear more as well.
Absolutely. So these are kind of our 2 big tentpole events and television specials that preceded all the digital work. The National Memorial Day Parade is the largest Memorial Day event in the country along Constitution Avenue every Memorial Day afternoon. Didn't exist 20 years ago. Back in 2004, the World War II Memorial was dedicated on Memorial Day weekend of that year. And there was a number of people who came together and said, hey, we should do a parade for all the World War II vets who are in town for the memorial, because obviously 20 years ago, there were thousands and thousands of World War II vets who had come out to be part of that dedication. And so obviously the American Battle Monuments Commission, who built the memorial, said, we're busy. We've put on the memorial or the dedication ceremonies, but they came to us and asked if we could take it on, and we said absolutely. We're honored to do it. We don't know anything about parades, but we are glad to do it. And so that parade 20 years ago kind of was the spark when we saw, hey, there really should be this kind of a commemoration every year. There are Memorial Day parades around the country, every little small town. I marched in one in high school band 25 years ago. But there wasn't one in Washington. We couldn't find any evidence of one for 60-some years. And so we institutionalized it as the National Memorial Day Parade the following year, and it's continued on and grown. Hundreds of thousands of spectators, televised across the country on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, stations, TV shows hosted by Anthony Anderson, the comedian, and all kinds of other great celebrities in it. Gary Sinise and Joe Mantegna with us every year, music performances. Gone from not existing to this great tradition because people care. I come back saying people care, and they really care about honoring our fallen on the military's most sacred holiday. So that's Memorial Day, and then every Veterans Day, going back for almost 30 years, we've held this event where we bring together just dozens of incredible stories from the last 80 years of history, where they're sharing their stories throughout an entire weekend. With hundreds of students from the military service academies and ROTC programs, this great intergenerational mix. And as part of that, we, for the past dozen years, have produced a Veterans Day television special called American Valor, A Salute to Our Heroes, where we honor these stories that inspire all of us, both famous ones that are known, Medal of Honor recipients, or famous veterans, to unknown ones that have never been told before and are deserving of that recognition. Great celebrity participation and involvement in that with comedian Rob Riggle, who's a Marine Corps veteran, as the host, with some introductions and narrations from people like Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford and Morgan Freeman, and go down the line of some great others as well. Clint Eastwood has done one. Really been fun to see that grow, and again, all a testament to so many people from all walks of life, including obviously entertainment and Hollywood to military, to everyday Americans, just wanting to come together and honor these stories that are the best of who we are. And again, so exciting, fulfilling to see.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That's great. That's truly remarkable, and it must be exciting for you. Like as the years go by, and you see these different, for example, celebrities that get involved with American Valor, or you see more people showing up than the previous year for the parade. It must feel really good to know that the work you're doing and the work that the American Veterans Center is doing is actually paying off.
Yeah, obviously, that's you love to see. I think because it shows that people care. I think that's the big thing. The growth shows that people care. I think we can get cynical or jaded or feel like maybe people don't care anymore about history or who we are and everything. And I think by seeing people come out and react and respond to it, that's all the difference. Watching. Just one example was a couple years ago after the parade. Of course, we all remember in 2020, COVID happened, the pandemic, and we couldn't do the parade down Constitution Avenue that year. And then the following year in 2021, we did it for television, but we couldn't have the crowds out yet. It was before they lifted all the restrictions. So in 2022, we came back to Constitution Avenue. And our Grand Marshal that year was a famous Tuskegee Airman, Lieutenant Colonel James Harvey. Incredible story. And I remember watching one of the news reports after the parade, and they were interviewing people along the route saying how much it meant to be down there and see it. But people said, I heard that this incredible Tuskegee Airman veteran was the Grand Marshal. I had to be there to see him and be part of that history. It's kind of testimonials like that really mean the most of people who want to be and be a part of this and this ongoing history, and again that connection of who we all are, and reminding, hey, you know what, we're all on the same team here.
Yeah. And when you guys finally had the parade again in 2022, did you notice a bigger interest in the event and the veterans and everything? Despite the COVID thing, you would think, this is our first event since COVID. We might not have a big turnout. It might not be, people might be interested in other things going on in the world. But was it a good turnout? Were you guys happy with what you saw? Yeah,
it is one of those situations where it's like, okay, we haven't done this in 3 years since 2019, and so what's it going to be like? We really tried to go out and do, and all the press and all the promotions say, come on out. We need everybody to show their excitement. And lo and behold, we get there and probably record crowds. And we were looking down, it was packed, and all the feedback we had was just that it was probably the biggest one yet. Again,
Wow.
tying into that energy for people to want to come together and be out and publicly together show their support for our military and of course our fallen heroes.
I'm glad to hear that. I had hoped that would be your answer, but it's just hard to know in the world and with the changing climates and the landscapes how people might react or not react. But it's great that they all turned out in 2022. And you had mentioned COVID. I know that especially since the COVID pandemic, the oral histories that the American Veterans Center shares, you guys have had an explosion of interest in the oral histories online. Could you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's again one of those situations where the pandemic, obviously none of us ever want to go through that again, but you look at opportunities that kind of come up. And with that, obviously people were turning to digital and YouTube and things they could do remotely. And that's right when we were seeing, hey, you know what? There's a real interest in this kind of material. And so by leaning into that a little bit and stepping up a lot of our preservation before, we would record veterans at our events. We did it in a studio we have here in our offices in Arlington, Virginia. But, we didn't get it out there as much. Now it's like, okay, we need to get out there and collect this history where it is, particularly, of course, with our World War II veterans who are pretty much 100 years old and older. Travel is not as easy. And so going to them and soaking up this history has been something that we've really done, especially aggressively these past few years since the pandemic, because you just see how much not just historically valuable it is, but how much people do want to watch from home through YouTube.
Yeah. And for those interested in checking out the oral histories of the American Veterans Center, they're called Veterans Chronicles, correct, Tim?
Correct. Yep, that's the title of the series. There's also a podcast companion for it. Just go to any of your podcast services, iTunes or whatever, and search for Veterans Chronicles, and that podcast will come up. And you can go to our YouTube channel. It's just American Veterans Center. AVC Videos, I believe, is the link to it on YouTube, and you'll see more than 1,000 videos and interviews up there. We have many hundreds more that we work to. We post one every Tuesday afternoon. So if you check in every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, new interview drops that week. And our goal is to never miss a week and keep these stories coming.
Great. That's great. And I'll be including a link below for the American Veterans Center official YouTube, their Instagram, all links anything we discuss in this video, I'll make sure to include the links as well below so that anyone who's interested can go check out the Veterans Chronicles videos, the oral histories, and anything else that they're interested in. Tim, I was wondering, with all the work you guys do with veterans, has the American Veterans Center worked at all with the Library of Congress, the Veterans History Project collection?
Yeah, actually, all the interviews that we shoot, we eventually do donate over to the Library of Congress to add to that collection. Obviously, the premier library in the world, Library of Congress. So helping to support that program is a huge part of what we do. It's kind of the biggest repository of the stories out there. What we try to be is the place where we can get out and record this material and then really leverage it for people to view it. So it's a nice kind of synergistic connection there with the program.
Great, perfect. Yeah, I was just wondering because a lot of my work, I'm always in the Library of Congress in that particular section, the Veterans History Project collection. And a lot of my work is pulled from there, but also from the American Veterans Center. So I figured that you both organizations would work together in some way, especially when you're sharing such vital history.
Exactly right. And we try to too. Our we obviously when museum exhibits or documentary programs are looking for material, a lot of times they'll reach out to us as well. So our interviews have showed up everywhere from the National Park Service, the Marine Corps Memorial. The National World War II Museum, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library reached out last year for an exhibit, to documentaries on PBS and Netflix and Nat Geo and other networks. A number of our interviews will appear because, again, we're out there collecting these firsthand accounts that are irreplaceable, historically speaking.
That's great. Love to hear that. I'm sure the my fellow historians out there that are listening and watching, because the work that you guys do truly is important. I feel like a little kid, in a toy store speaking with you because because of the value that I place on the work that the American Veterans Center does, and I understand that time is limited, and it's not easy work to do at all, especially as you mentioned, with a lot of these veterans being 100 and older, they can't just simply travel here or there to give an interview. So you guys have to go to them and set this all up, and I truly. I think it's inspirational, honestly, the work that the American Veterans Center does.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it really is, a passion project. And, every time we capture a great story that's been on our list, it's one that we just say, all right, it kind of, you feel that satisfaction. Like, great, all right, another piece of history we've been able to record and save and preserve. Of course, then you immediately, turn to the next one and say, okay, there's more to do. And, hopefully, knowing that there's a little more to do, is one of those the attitudes that never leaves us, because there is always more to do and more history to save. And again, even when our World War II generation is gone, you still have Korea, you still have Vietnam. Then, of course, you have generations since that will kind of become our elders. You'll get Cold War, Gulf War, and then post 9/11 veterans who now become the generations that everybody looks to as the ones who were given the torch and took up the torch and carried it, and now are ready to pass it on to younger generations.
That's great. I love to hear that. What do you think, Tim? What do you think the reason behind this explosion in the popularity that the American Veterans Center has been getting? The support for the parade, the support for the oral histories, everything. I know you touched on the fact that we had the lockdown and everyone was now limited on what they can do, which meant they're going to be online more. But what do you think is the real reasoning?
I think it's speaking to people's hungers and aspirations to find something bigger and better and transcendent and talk to who we are. That is, again, I come back to using the internet for good. Aspiration is sort of that antidote to resentment, and the internet is and social media a lot of times is kind of built to tap into that negative place in the brain, right, where we that become resentful or angry, and but that's not nourishing for us, but so finding aspirational stories of people that say, hey, this is what I really want to be like, that's the kind of stuff that really matters to people, and I think that's why people gravitate towards it. When you find a great story that is told well, people really do care about that, and it resonates.
Yeah. It's just to add to what you just said, which was brilliant. Everything you said was perfect. Just to add to it, I would say that people, as the days get darker and the times get more uncertain, they're looking for hope. They're looking for inspiration. And what better place, honestly, to find hope and inspiration than from these veterans, as you know, and as I know from my work. And I think this would be a great point, since we're speaking of inspiration, if you wanted to highlight one or two of your favorite oral histories that you've experienced with the American Veterans Center.
Yeah, and there's obviously there's so many that really stand out. But you go from anywhere from these legends like Woody Williams, the last Medal of Honor recipient from World War II, who we knew well and just passed away a couple of years ago, to Dick Cole, who was the co-pilot of Jimmy Doolittle on the Doolittle raid. Actually, we record this on April 18th. April 18th, 1942 was the date of the Doolittle raid 82 years ago. And we knew Colonel Cole and a number of the Doolittle raiders very well over the years, and they're recorded and posted. To everyday veterans, one that I mentioned earlier was a guy, Bob Shipe is his name. He was a Browning automatic rifleman, World War II, European theater, 42 days in combat. Everyday guy, but just hearing him tell his story so just resonated so much with us. And then hearing this sort of fun sort of side stories, not everything needs to be big and epic. Sometimes it's just a fun, funny story. And so Bob told a story of at the end of the war, he had been through the whole war in Europe, shipped over to Japan for occupation duty at the end of the war. And part of his job was he was in charge of a big store house of Japanese beer that was left over there. And one of his friends that he had known from prior knew that he was in charge of this store of beer and said, "Hey, can I have some of some beer?" And he said, "Oh yeah, go ahead. Go. We have a bunch of this Japanese beer. Nobody's drinking it. Help yourself." And so his friend went and did and took it and took quite a bit of it for him and many of his friends, and ended up overindulging and showed up the next day inebriated and got in trouble. And they said, "Hey, where did you get this?" And they blamed Bob for it. And so Bob got court-martialed and busted down from sergeant down to private, and laughed when he told this story of, I went in as a private, I left as a private. He said, "I didn't care so long as I got to go home." So it's those kind of individual stories that are a lot of fun. And then you have, of course, these other stories that are just these people that were part of those moments in history that you'll never forget. Anybody who's there will never forget, or when you watch it, you see it, you'll never forget. A couple examples are one is Clint Hill, who was the Secret Service agent who jumped on the back of President Kennedy's car to shield the president and Mrs. Kennedy after the shots rang out. Everybody will remember in the Zapruder film of seeing that one Secret Service agent sprint to the car and jump on board to shield them. Hearing that perspective of him who knew President and Mrs. Kennedy, was close to both of them, and then was there in that moment. That is timeless history that will resonate. Another that really stood out was Major Heather Penny on September 11th, 2001. She was in the D.C. Air National Guard, and at the time, their fighter planes were not armed to scan for any threats. And so when the attacks happened and reports happened of Flight 93 heading towards Washington, there was no time to go and arm their planes to intercept. So her and her commanding officer took off in unarmed jets to go and intercept Flight 93, with the understanding that if it came to it, to stop the plane, they might have to ram it out of the sky. An incredible story that was not known for the first 10 years or so after September 11th. Fortunately, though, that didn't happen. Why? Because of the heroes, the passengers on Flight 93, who fought to try to take back the plane from the hijackers. And so, again, an incredible moment, a moment all of us who were alive and remember them will never forget that. And this is that one individual story of someone who did their best and took action in that moment to try to be a part of saving people. It's always about saving people is consistently what you hear from people in those situations. It's always about saving and not taking. I'm borrowing a line from another one of my favorite stories from Medal of Honor recipient Melvin Morris. But he said it's saving a life. It's not taking a life. That's what matters.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, all inspiration right there. Just those few little stories that you shared, and there's so much more that the American Veterans Center has in their oral histories collection. I was glad you were able to talk about Clint Hill in particular. A lot of people, even to today, know what happened with JFK. They know the story. They know the conspiracies and all that. and most have seen the picture of a Secret Service agent jumping on the back of the car, and to hear that man speak and to hear his story, not only as, just everything he was involved with, just using him as an example, is just amazing. And like you had said, it's inspiration. It's not only it's men, women, Black, Hispanic. You get everything from these stories. If you look and if you find the right stories, everyone could be inspired.
Exactly right, and that's the goal, is to remind everybody. Again, we're all on the same team here, and that's what we want to be able to look to each other, because in the end, we all are going to depend on each other, and so that's the role that we're trying to play.
Yeah. Please, Tim, if you could just share with us what is the future for the American Veterans Center? What do you guys have planned for the future to continue to honor and preserve these stories?
Absolutely. Well, really, we are in the immediate future. It is get the last as we can of the World War II generation. Get them before it's too late. We've really got, another year or two when, you can really get out there and there's still people who can tell it. So time is of the essence, and we're trying to do everything we possibly can to capture it before they're gone. And then, of course, continuing that story when they are gone is finding, these new stories of new generation sense of these aspiration stories that people gravitate towards. And they do. You hear stories from those who have served post 9/11, from special operations veterans to others. Those also are ones that people want to hear, because they do stand out and say, you know what, this is something that I admire. And when you find young people today who are deciding, is military service something I want to do? Well, the first step is believing in what they're stepping up, believing that when they're handed this torch from these earlier generations, that it's something worth being a part of. So that's kind of our bigger continuing mission over time.
Yeah. It's just it's great. It just continue the work. Get as many veterans as you can. Share their get their stories, as many as you can. And I was thinking as you were speaking, a lot of people think, oh, World War II so far away, or even Korea so far away, and I understand that, but they might be able to relate to a veteran of the Afghanistan war or Iraq, because it's a little bit closer to their time period. So either way, the point is all veteran stories, whether it's from World War II all the way to Iraq, even to today, every story can inspire and help somebody out there.
Exactly. I look at it as it's a continuation of that same tradition. And so you're a part of this, everybody there, we're all a part of this same tradition. And that's right. World War II feels like this sort of mist in time that's is inaccessible. But you look as that time continues, and you find yourself with people who, if you're a young person who, those who came from Iraq and Afghanistan are, just not that much older. And obviously, we still have service members around the world today. And so, it's a story that has not ended and won't end. And obviously, we hope we don't see anything like World War II ever again. But, being prepared and ready and understanding that continuation is always important.
Yeah, definitely, Tim. I want to just thank you for coming on here today, sitting down and speaking with me, telling me and the viewers and watchers everything about the American Veterans Center. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think, again, it's been great being with you. Again, it's always about these stories. Please, check out our website at AmericanVeteranCenter.org, especially check out our YouTube or our Facebook, both of which you can find all of these stories on there. And it's just, again, it's an honor to do what we do.
Great, perfect. And like I said earlier, I'll be including all links to the American Veterans Center down below. Their website, their Instagram, their YouTube channel, everything. So I hope that my listeners and watchers, they go out there and they just start checking out these oral histories, because it's very interesting and very vital work that the American Veterans Center does. Thank you, Tim, for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. You have a good day now, and thank you everyone for watching and listening.